I, 24M, turned my whole life around for the girl I loved, only to find out she is already married to someone else. Alright, Reddit, here's my story. It's one that's been eating away at me for a while, and I feel like I need to let it out because the regret is killing me. If you've ever had that one person who inspired you to be better, you'll understand. And if you've ever lost that person, well, I think you'll understand that pain, too. Let me take you back about 6 years. I was a mess. Back in high school, I was your classic bully. I didn't care about school, didn't care about my future, and definitely didn't care about anyone else. I was failing classes left and right, skipping school more than attending, and just coasting through life with this attitude like none of it mattered. Looking back now, I was angry, lost, and honestly, kind of pathetic. I picked on people because I didn't know how to deal with my own issues, but at the time, I thought I was invincible. Then one day, everything changed. It was sophomore year, and I met her. Let's call her Emily. Emily was the kind of girl that could light up a room just by walking into it. She was smart, funny, kind to everyone, and completely out of my league. She wasn't just pretty, she had this energy about her that made you want to be around her, like she made the world a little better just by existing in it. Of course, I wasn't the only one who noticed. Everyone liked her, but I knew I didn't stand a chance, especially with who I was at the time. For a while, I just admired her from afar. I didn't have the guts to talk to her, and honestly, I figured she'd see right through me and know I was nothing more than the class failure, a bully who couldn't get his life together. But the more I saw her, the more I realized something. I didn't want to be that guy anymore. I didn't want to be the loser who wasted his potential. I wanted to be someone who deserved someone like Emily. So, one day, out of nowhere, I walked up to her. I don't know what I was thinking, but I asked her for her number. I wasn't trying to impress her with some grand gesture or anything. I just told her straight up, I'm not the kind of guy you'd be into right now, but I'm going to change that. Give me your number so that when I'm a better person, I can call you. She laughed, not in a mean way, but like she was surprised. She looked at me for a moment and, to my shock, she handed me her number. From that moment, my life changed. I don't know what it was about that exchange, but something inside me clicked. I realized I couldn't just sit around waiting for things to get better. If I wanted to be the kind of person Emily could respect, hell, the kind of person I could respect, I needed to work for it. And I did. I started studying, stopped skipping classes, and ditched the whole too cool for school attitude. I focused on my grades, got serious about my future, and quit hanging out with the people who were dragging me down. I even apologized to the kids I used to bully, which wasn't easy, but it felt right. Over time, I started seeing real changes in myself. I wasn't perfect, but I was trying, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I was going somewhere. By the time I graduated, I had completely turned my life around. I went to college, got a degree in business, and started my own company a couple of years later. It wasn't easy, and there were a lot of sleepless nights, but I pushed through because I had this image of Emily in my mind, this idea of the person I wanted to be for her. I kept her number the entire time, telling myself that once I'd made it, I'd call her. I'd tell her how much she inspired me, how I became a better man because of her. Fast forward 5 years. My business was thriving, I was financially stable, and I had grown into someone I was proud of. I finally felt ready to reach out to Emily. I figured even if she didn't remember me, or if she had moved on, at least I could tell her how much she had changed my life. I called her. No answer. So, I texted her, something casual, like, hey, it's been a while, but I'd love to catch up. A few days went by with no response, and I started to feel that familiar pit in my stomach. But then I got a reply. It wasn't from Emily, though. It was from her friend, who told me that Emily had gotten married a few months ago. She showed me a picture of the wedding. Emily looked happy, beaming in her wedding dress with her new husband. I remembered just sitting there, staring at the screen, feeling like the wind had been knocked out of me. I had spent 5 years working toward this moment, believing that one day I'd be the guy who could win her over, but it was too late. She had found someone else, someone who didn't need 5 years to get his life together. I didn't know whether to feel heartbroken or proud of myself. I had worked so hard, and for what? To miss my chance? But at the same time, I had built something for myself that no one could take away from me. I wasn't the same kid who used to bully people and throw his life away. I had become someone better, and I owed that to Emily, even if she never knew it. I'm not going to lie, it still hurts. I thought that one day, maybe we'd have a fairy tale ending, but life doesn't always work that way. Still, I guess the moral of the story is that sometimes, we change for someone, but in the end, we end up changing for ourselves. I'm still grateful to her, even though she's not in my life anymore. She gave me the push I needed to be the man I am today, and I can't hate her for that. TLDR, I was a bully and failing in school, but I met a girl who inspired me to turn my life around. I worked hard for 5 years to become someone worthy of her, only to find out she got married to someone else. Despite the heartbreak, I'm proud of the person I became, because of her. I, 25M, changed my whole life for a girl, but life threw me a curveball I didn't see coming. So, I never thought I'd be writing this, but here we are. I guess I just need to get it out. It's been weighing on me for a while, and I feel like I'm finally ready to share it. You ever do something for someone and think, this is it, this is going to change my life for the better, only to realize that life has a funny way of messing with you? Yeah, that's exactly what happened to me. Let me start from the beginning. I wasn't exactly the kind of kid anyone would call a role model. I wasn't a bully, but I wasn't doing great in school either. Skipping classes, not caring about my grades, just going through life like nothing really mattered. My parents were on my case constantly, and my teachers had pretty much given up on me. Honestly, I didn't see the point of trying. Life felt like one long series of bad decisions, and I was fine with that. Then I met her. Let's call her Mia. Mia was different. She wasn't like the girls I usually hung around with. She was smart, ambitious, and had this drive that made you want to get your shit together just by being near her. She was the kind of girl you could imagine running the world one day, and I wasn't even sure I was going to graduate high school. But man, I fell hard for her. Here's the thing, I knew there was no way Mia would ever look at me twice in my current state. I wasn't dumb enough to think that I could charm my way into her life without changing anything. So, for the first time in my life, I decided to make an effort. I started showing up to class, doing my homework, and actually giving a damn about my future. I knew it wasn't going to happen overnight, but I figured if I could turn things around, maybe, just maybe, Mia would see me as more than just the slacker I used to be. One day, I worked up the courage to talk to her. I didn't go all out with some cheesy pickup line or anything. I just told her the truth. I said, Mia, I know I'm not the kind of guy you'd ever date right now, but I'm going to change that. I'm going to get my life together, and when I do, I'd like to take you out. I half expected her to laugh in my face, but she didn't. She smiled, looked me dead in the eyes, and said, I'll hold you to that. That was all I needed. From that moment on, I went into full-on self-improvement mode. I stopped skipping school, got help with my grades, and even started volunteering to pad my college applications. It was like a switch flipped in my brain, and I was determined to be the kind of guy Mia could be proud of. It wasn't just about impressing her anymore, it became about proving to myself that I could be someone different. I wanted to be the guy who had his life together, not the kid who everyone thought would peak in high school. A few years went by, and I made good on my promise. I graduated high school with decent grades, got into a solid college, and even landed a great job right after graduation. I was doing well, better than I ever thought I could. I had kept Mia's number, and when I felt like I was finally the guy she could date, I decided to reach out. I sent her a text. It wasn't anything flashy, just a simple, hey, it's been a while. I'd love to catch up if you're free. I was nervous as hell. I figured she probably had her pick of guys by now, and maybe she wouldn't even remember me. But to my surprise, she responded pretty quickly. She agreed to meet up for coffee, and I was over the moon. When we met up, it felt like no time had passed. Mia looked as incredible as ever, and I was proud to show her that I'd followed through on my promise. We talked for hours about life, school, careers, everything. It was going great, and for a second, I thought, this is it, the moment I've been working towards. Then she dropped a bomb on me. Right when I was about to suggest we hang out again, she said, "I have something I need to tell you." My heart sank. I had a feeling it wasn't going to be good. She went on to explain that she had been dating someone for the past few months, and it was getting pretty serious. She even hinted that they were thinking about getting engaged soon. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Here I was, thinking I'd turned my life around to be with her, and she was already planning a future with someone else. I didn't know what to say, so I just smiled, told her I was happy for her, and wished her the best. We hugged, and I walked away feeling like the ground had been pulled out from under me. For the next few weeks, I was a wreck. I kept thinking, what was the point of all of this? I worked so hard to be someone better, and it didn't even matter. Mia had moved on, and I was left standing there with all these changes I'd made for her, feeling like they were for nothing. But then I realized something. Yeah, I had changed for Mia at first, but in the end, I changed for myself. I wasn't the same lost kid who didn't care about anything anymore. I was someone who had worked for something, who had grown and improved because I wanted to, not just because I thought it would get me the girl. And even though I didn't get the fairy tale ending I was hoping for, I'm still proud of who I've become. Mia may not be in my life the way I imagined, but she gave me the push I needed to get my act together. In a way, I still owe her for that. TLDR, I was a slacker in high school who turned my life around for a girl I loved. After years of hard work, I became successful and finally asked her out, only to find out she was in a serious relationship and planning to get engaged. I, 26M, turned my life around for a girl, but I didn't see the ultimate twist coming. Alright Reddit, buckle up because this story still blows my mind to this day. I've never really shared this fully, but it feels like the right time. It's about how one girl completely changed the trajectory of my life, and how life had other plans I didn't see coming. Let me take you back to high school. I wasn't that bad of a kid, but I wasn't great either. Average grades, no real ambition, and honestly, I just didn't care. I wasn't interested in my future, I was mostly just coasting through life, doing the bare minimum to avoid getting into trouble. My teachers were always on my case, telling me I was wasting my potential, but I just wasn't bothered. I was the class clown type, always joking around and goofing off. But then, everything changed when I met Sophie, not her real name. Sophie wasn't like anyone I had ever met before. She wasn't just beautiful, she was brilliant, ambitious, and way out of my league in every possible way. She had her entire life mapped out, she was going to ace school, get into a top university, and change the world. Meanwhile, I was barely scraping by with CS and DS. I knew I didn't stand a chance with her, but for the first time in my life, I wanted to change that. I wanted to be better because of her. Not just because I liked her, and I really liked her, but because being around her made me realize how much I was wasting my life. So, I made a decision, I was going to turn my life around, not just to impress Sophie, but to prove to myself that I wasn't just the slacker everyone thought I was. I started putting in the work. I ditched the whole too cool to care attitude and got serious about my grades. I studied hard, showed up to class on time, and even started participating in discussions. It wasn't easy, and a lot of people were surprised at the sudden shift, but I didn't care. I had a goal, and for once in my life, I wasn't going to let anyone get in the way of it. After a while, I worked up the courage to talk to Sophie. We were in the same biology class, and one day, I just decided to go for it. I asked her if she wanted to study together for the upcoming exam, and to my surprise, she said yes. From that point on, we started spending more time together. I'd like to say it was smooth sailing, but I'm not going to lie, I had to work hard to keep up with her. She was on another level academically, and I had to put in serious effort just to not look like an idiot. The thing is, the more time I spent with her, the more I realized how much I wanted to be a better person, not just for her, but for myself. I started applying the same drive I had in school to other parts of my life. I got a part-time job, started exercising, and really began thinking about my future. For the first time, I could actually see myself going somewhere. Sophie had lit this fire inside me, and I wasn't about to let it go out. Fast forward to graduation, and I had completely turned my life around. I graduated with decent grades, got into a solid university, and even scored a great internship. Sophie and I stayed in touch, but I always kept things friendly. I knew she was way out of my league, and I didn't want to mess up the friendship we had by pushing for more. I figured if it was meant to be, it would happen naturally. Well, a few years went by. I was doing well in university, had some great internships under my belt, and was getting ready to graduate. I hadn't seen Sophie much, because we went to different schools, but we'd chat every now and then. I still liked her, but I had accepted that it probably wasn't going to happen. She was dating someone by then, and I didn't want to get in the way of that. Here's where the twist comes in. Right before graduation, Sophie reached out to me. She said she was going to be in town for a few days and wanted to catch up. I hadn't seen her in a while, so I was excited, but I didn't expect much. We met up for coffee, and honestly, it felt like no time had passed. She was still the same Sophie, driven, intelligent, and as beautiful as ever. After a few hours of catching up, she dropped a bombshell on me. She told me that she had broken up with her boyfriend and that she had something she needed to get off her chest. Apparently, she had liked me back in high school, but she never said anything because she didn't think I was serious about changing. She figured I'd fall back into my old habits, and she didn't want to get involved with someone who wasn't going anywhere. But now, seeing how much I had changed, she admitted that she regretted not giving me a chance. I was stunned. I had spent years thinking I didn't stand a chance with her, only to find out that she had liked me too. We ended up spending the rest of the evening together, and for the first time I felt like everything I had worked for had paid off. Sophie and I started dating after that, and for a while it was perfect. But then, things started to unravel. The more time we spent together, the more I realized that the Sophie I had built up in my mind wasn't exactly the Sophie in front of me. Don't get me wrong, she was still amazing, but there were cracks. She was controlling, demanding, and constantly stressed out. She expected perfection, not just from herself, but from everyone around her, including me. I had worked so hard to become someone she could be proud of, but it was never enough. Eventually, the pressure became too much. We fought constantly, and it felt like no matter what I did, I couldn't make her happy. The relationship that I had spent years dreaming of turned into a nightmare. After about a year of dating, we broke up. Here's the kicker, though, breaking up with Sophie wasn't the end of my story, it was the beginning of a new one. Losing her made me realize that I didn't need her to validate the changes I had made. I had become someone better, not because of her, but because of me. And when I finally let go of the idea that I needed her approval, I felt free. Now, I'm running my own business, happy with where I'm at in life, and I've moved on. I'm grateful to Sophie for pushing me to be better, but I'm even more grateful that I learned I didn't need her, or anyone else, to define my success. TLDR, I turned my life around for a girl I liked in high school, only to find out years later she liked me too. We started dating, but the relationship turned toxic, and we broke up. In the end, I realized I didn't need her approval to be happy or successful.